following is a discussion that Sabrina and I had with our old friend Freeman Ding in Shanghai earlier this year. So Freeman is one of the earliest pioneers of consumer internet in China. He did an MBA with the University of California. After his MBA with Berkeley, Freeman went back to China in the early 2010s to join Baidu and structured some of the largest acquisitions in the Chinese tech space. He later joined Dianping, and he was with Dianping when the company merged with Meituan to form the largest local services conglomerate in China. So he actually talked in one of the earlier episodes of the Impulso Podcast by Momentum Works, where he mentioned about why with 2011 to 2016, the golden years of tech in China. Over the discussion, we talked about the role of Shanghai in the whole tech development in China and why super apps will only exist in China, or in his words, why he didn't like the notion of super apps. We also talked about food delivery and how the whole local services were developed over the years and some of the lessons that companies in other regions can learn from. So enjoy the podcast.
Today we're in Shanghai. We have a special guest joining us today, Freeman.
Freeman appeared in an earlier podcast. No, not appeared, yes. But that was before we started the video.
I will link that down below if you guys are interested to check out the podcast with Freeman. So Freeman, you used to live in Singapore, right? And now you've moved back to China.
Yeah, I currently split my time between Shanghai and Singapore.
So what do you think are the main differences as when you live in Shanghai versus when you live in Singapore?
Oh yeah, that's quite a difference living in Shanghai versus living in Singapore. Where can I start? I guess, yeah, let's start from the very basic part of life. For example, the first is about eating, right? I mean, Chinese care a lot about eating. So first, if we talk about the Chinese cuisine, ancestors were coming from the Lingnan part. You can easily find this kind of Chinese cuisine in Singapore. But for the other regions, northern part of China's region, there are much less choices in Singapore if you compare to Shanghai. And that's for Chinese cuisine part. If we talk about Western cuisine, Japanese, Korean, I think because Shanghai and Singapore both are very international cities, so you can easily find all this kind of cuisine also in Shanghai. So in that part, they are quite similar. But I think Singapore is better than Shanghai. Singapore has a lot more Indian
cuisine.
Because there's no such an area called Little India in Shanghai. But
how about in terms of lifestyle? So like the way you live, what's the differences between Shanghai and Singapore? Because for me, when I come to Shanghai, when I come to China in general, I find that everything is so convenient. Everything I want, I can find online.
Can I add one thing? You have been going to Shanghai and Hangzhou like a few times, yes. Like last 6 months, right? And one thing you should notice here versus Singapore is that there are seasons.
Yes, that's why we are in sweaters today.
Yeah, and you dress differently, different seasons according to the weather. And,
you don't have to think about that in Singapore.
Yeah, you come to the office in slippers, right?
I don't come to the office in slippers. I wish. You don't have to think about I have to wear 4 or 5 layers here. I miss the weather in Singapore. Yeah, but in terms of lifestyle, what are the differences? So for example, obviously one of the biggest differences to me is food delivery, Meituan.
Yes.
So whenever we are here, sometimes if we're lazy or if it's cold and I don't want to go out and eat, I'll just get my colleagues to order Meituan to the hotel.
Yes.
And sometimes we can order Meituan at 2-3 a.m. and someone will deliver it to you, and it's less than $1, Singapore dollar.
Do you do that in Singapore at 2-3 a.m. McDonald's?
No, because the delivery fee is $4. I will cook instant noodles at home.
Yeah, I think in general, no matter the food delivery or e-commerce logistics, I think that will be much easier in China. I mean, not only in Shanghai, but also in basically every city in China. Yeah, in Singapore, we basically gave up that option.
You don't order food delivery as much in Singapore, right?
We ordered, and there were some problems, and we tried to get our customer service, and we realized the customer service of FoodPanda is in Malaysia, and they cannot resolve the problem at all. they can just like make some returns. Yeah.
In FoodPanda, customer service is still in Malaysia.
Yeah.
So I was running FoodPanda like almost 10 years ago. And
It was also in Malaysia?
No, back then the customer service was in Malaysia because it's cheaper and it's much easier to hire people. But we had one problem, which I think at that time we couldn't resolve, is that while you can train the customer service agents to answer the question in standard way, but food delivery is a very local business.
Yeah.
And we don't have the local knowledge when the customer tells you
Yeah.
that, okay, I'm at this street, and the driver tells you that I'm at the other street.
Yeah.
We have the local knowledge, you can easily direct them. But when you don't,
Yeah.
we had lots of frustration
I
with
think
customers.
that's true for a lot of the Southeast Asian countries, right? Especially
Yeah.
when the maps are a little more
Yeah,
ambiguous. It's
Yeah.
a lot harder for these riders,
Yes.
yeah.
right?
I think the essence of the question is basically China is a united, huge market, and
Southeast Asia is a more fragmented
just
market.
So fragmented.
I think another thing about customer service in food delivery in China, they let you talk directly to the rider, they let you directly talk to the merchant. So the customer service interaction is not that much.
Yeah.
I actually don't know why. This is such interesting because I think for Grab, lots of things you still need to reach out to customer service, and customers will help you reach out to merchant.
Yeah, I think generally if let's say the merchants forgot your orders or something, you file your complaint through Grab instead of directly to the merchant.
Yeah.
So the platforms kind of just have to serve as a middleman.
Also burden.
In China's food delivery, such as on Meituan, and they have a group chat inside of the app to let consumers and merchant can directly communicate, but within the platform.
With the platforms.
scope. So. Yes.
Just we don't have that outside yet.
Anyway, I think the topic of logistics, e-commerce, or food delivery, we have to say it's way more sophisticated in China versus in other countries.
How about in China itself? So where do you think Shanghai stands in terms of the development of these Chinese internet services as a whole?
I think Shanghai is very important during the progress of the Chinese consumer tech industry. There are many companies actually were founded in Shanghai. For example, the first vertical is about media, including search engine, video. So actually, do you know Musical.ly was founded in Shanghai before it was acquired by ByteDance and to become TikTok.
TikTok, yes.
I haven't heard Musical.ly in a while.
So for the people who are not familiar, it's an app which allowed people to lip sync with the songs.
Yeah, so you would film videos of yourself lip syncing over different songs and post them. So it was like a social media platform where people would just post videos of themselves lip syncing.
And it was acquired by ByteDance, and it was the basis of TikTok.
Yeah, but that was just the latest. Before Musical.ly, there were also other video giants were founded in Shanghai, such as Tudou and PPS. But they were acquired or merged with other video websites in China about 10 years ago. So even talk about non-video format media companies, I guess the hottest one right now is Xiaohongshu. Xiaohongshu is founded and currently still operated in Shanghai.
Shanghai as well.
So I guess even today I heard that there's a hashtag on Xiaohongshu is called TikTok refugee.
Yes, Elodie and I were just talking about this morning. So essentially, for those who don't know, right, Xiaohongshu is kind of a social media platform that's pretty popular in China. They have photos and videos format where you have an explore page and you can see different posts. It's something used by a lot of Chinese people when they're finding restaurants. Elodie was just telling me this morning there's a hashtag called TikTok refugees. So essentially, it's a bunch of consumers in the US who use TikTok. But obviously, as the time we're filming this, there's kind of the discussion going around about the TikTok ban in the US. So a bunch of them have started moving to Xiaohongshu. And what's interesting to me is because initially I downloaded Xiaohongshu as well, but I cannot use it because I cannot read Chinese. So to me, Xiaohongshu is just to look at photos, right? But Elodie was telling
like
me that
Instagram for you.
Yeah. But Elodie was telling me that now, because of the hashtag TikTok refugees, there are actually a couple of posts on Xiaohongshu where the description is in English for the US consumer.
So this morning some friends were talking about it, saying that, hey, if Xiaohongshu becomes popular in the US, would that get the risk of being banned? and somebody made a comment saying, look, I mean, you would take a US congressman like 50 years to understand how Xiaohongshu works.
Anyway, Xiaohongshu is founded here in Shanghai. So let's look about another important segment, e-commerce. Yeah, we all know Alibaba was founded in Hangzhou. So there's another company, very old company called EachNet. EachNet was founded in Shanghai, and EachNet then was acquired by eBay. And that actually was triggered or inspired Alibaba in the early days to turn itself from a B2B marketplace to a consumer-facing e-commerce website.
So that was the shark.
Yeah.
So EachNet was the kind of the main competitor to the very early stage
Of
Alibaba. But even now we know Pinduoduo is here, right?
Dodo is also
It's like very close to where we are, right?
Pinduoduo is just I think within 2 kilometers
From where we are.
So it's
Yeah.
founded in Shanghai.
in Shanghai, I think in 2015, right? Yeah. So that's Pinduoduo. So that's for e-commerce, right? So another important sector is actually gaming company. There are a lot of gaming studio in Shanghai. I think the most maybe the most famous one currently is MiHoYo.
MiHoYo.
Okay.
MiHoYo.
Okay.
MiHoYo is the company that is behind Genshin Impact.
Yeah.
Yeah. But before that, there used to be also a very large gaming company called Shengda Gaming.
China was founded by this guy called Chen Tianqiao, right?
Chen Tianqiao, yeah.
So he became the richest man in China at like early 30s, right? And because he was distributing Korean games, then he started building his own games.
Shengda used to be the big names, like equivalent to BAT, I mean, once a while.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Yeah, and the funny thing is that there's a story about the Shopee's parent, like C Group, right? At that time, Tencent and Shanda went to Singapore to say that who can help us distribute our games in Southeast Asia. Then I think there's some other studio or some other company which made alliance with Shanda, and when Tencent went there, Garena was the second, so they invested in Garena, and then Garena later became like a C Group, Shopee, and stuff. So lots of stories there.
So definitely Shanghai is very important for gaming sector.
Yeah, that's also another company. Yeah, so that company developed this game called Mobile Legends, very popular in Southeast
Mobile
Asia.
Legends is very popular in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Is it popular in China as well?
No, I don't think they were marketing in China. So I remember like before the pandemic in Indonesia, when you go to like a convenience stores, you have all the young people gathering there to use the free Wi-Fi to play Mobile Legends. So the company will build in Indonesia. People go for tea break, sometimes they go for smoke break, and there they go for Mobile Legends break. 15 minutes, play Mobile Legends, and come back to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and another important sector is location-based services, such as food delivery or even travel. This side, Shanghai also plays a very important role. For example, Ctrip or the Trip.com was founded here. It has been and it's always been the number one in the travel sector in Chinese tech industry.
Do you use Trip.com?
Yeah.
Trip.com.
Yes.
Which is the overseas version of Ctrip.
So essentially, you book your hotels, your train tickets as well.
And I think they bought Skyscanner as well.
Oh, did they buy
They
Skyscanner?
bought Skyscanner, yeah. It's also quite close to here, right?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, we are currently in the Changning district in Shanghai. I think Changning district is almost the Silicon Valley in Shanghai.
No wonder every company is like near here somewhere.
Yeah. So another two important company founded in Shanghai is Dianping and Ele.me. Ele.me is first food delivery company in China. It was founded in 2009, and the Meituan delivery business was started in 2013. 4 years later.
Okay.
If you guys are kind of interested in Meituan as well, we do actually have a case study of Meituan, how they kind of pivoted from doing group buy to becoming one of the biggest food delivery players in China. And of course, before Meituan, there was Ele.me, which was started in Shanghai as well.
And before Ele.me, there is a company called Dianping, which I worked for. Dianping used to be a search engine for in-store dining. Dianping was merged with Meituan in 2015. And it's one of the biggest mega merger in China's tech industry. And later on, that company went to IPO with the name of Meituan-Dianping. It's only recently renamed as Meituan.
So Ele.me was also acquired by Alibaba, right?
Yes. Alibaba was founded here in Shanghai, and later, actually, Ele.me was first invested by Dianping, but later on, it was fully acquired by Alibaba for $9.5 billion in 2018.
Let's just mention that lots of companies which started here. But there's also another saying that, okay, amongst the BAT, ByteDance, Alibaba, Tencent, or now ByteDance, Baidu, or whatever. So now these companies are based in Shanghai. So historically, people are saying that, okay, Shanghai doesn't breed this kind of like huge companies. But as you said, there are lots of like consumer-focused companies which actually came from here, which became fairly sizable and fairly known. So how do you reconcile these two?
I think it's just maybe just a coincidence. And also you can note that a lot of companies were founded in Shanghai, but at some point they were either merged or controlled by another company. I guess that's only a mindset of the entrepreneurs in Shanghai. Probably they are more open to the merger and acquisition instead of just the IPO. So from the exit point of view, I think that's a good mindset. At least it brings good exit for the management team and as well as for investors.
Yeah, and the other company would carry on with the ups and downs.
So as we were saying, a lot of these kind of consumer internet tech companies are started in Shanghai, right?
Yeah.
Is there a reason for it? So are there a lot more consumers in Shanghai, or at least more advanced?
More fashionable.
Like maybe trendier consumers in Shanghai?
I guess so. Historically, Shanghai used to be the most trending city in China, even for the whole East Asia during World War II. Definitely, Shanghai consumers are the most sophisticated group in China. So there's also many consumer-facing products, no matter it's beverage, coffee, or many Western consumer products like bakery products. Their first store in China often choose to be in Shanghai. Yeah.
What is the population of Shanghai?
It's the largest city in China, right?
It's like
The population in Shanghai is, I think it's around 25 million people.
25 million
Yes.
people.
What's the population in Singapore? You don't know?
6 point something.
No.
6.9.
Yeah, the residents, people living in Singapore, the population is around 6 million. So the other, a little bit less than half are either PR or foreigners working in Singapore.
So if you think about that, and now the GDP per capita in China is about like 12,000 US dollars. And Shanghai has a population of 25 million, right?
25 million.
And GDP per capita is probably more than twice that of the national average. Shanghai itself is surrounded by a group of cities, what we call the Yangtze River Delta, or historically what we call the Baoyuqu, free shipping area.
Yeah, shipping area.
Yeah, there's Shanghai, Jiangsu, and Zhejiang provinces, right? So the whole river delta has a population of 227 million people.
It's the most advanced region in China.
In China.
Yeah.
So
I have a feeling that whatever business model you do, right, you test with the Shanghai consumers because they are open to new trends, right? And once it proves to work, then you tell the investors, hey, the whole of China works this way.
So is that why you think a lot of the consumer internet tech companies started in Shanghai? Just because most of the people here are probably like early adopters and they have a much higher spending power.
yes. Yes.
I think when they're started by people who live here, they know the consumer pain points and they know the possibilities, right? They are consumers themselves, and they can build business models. So is that what you see as well? Or?
Yeah, yes. And also you just mentioned the population comparison, Shanghai to Singapore. I also want to mention the size of the area. I checked the numbers. So basically Shanghai is almost 9 times of Singapore. In terms of the land size. The size of Singapore is only equals to the so-called within the outer ring of Shanghai.
So then you can see that with such a large population and consumption power and the concentration of consumption power, you can start testing business models. And then the business model can be expanded to the surrounding cities.
Yes.
And that itself, 227 million people.
Yeah.
Like only 5 countries. It's just, and the consumption power-wise, it's huge, right?
Yeah. So basically, what Zhang Gan said is Shanghai and the nearby provinces together is already a united huge market for many consumer-facing applications. And the importance, the pattern is already united. I mean, everyone talks the same language, everyone using the same logistic company, free shipping.
Is the infrastructure development also similar? So like it's more well developed in Shanghai and like the surrounding areas? Or do you think across China the infrastructure is kind of at the same level now?
Current logistic efficiency is definitely for the top tier cities, but overall for the whole China, no matter the extent it can reach, and also the delivery speed, I think both are very satisfactory. But if we talk about infrastructure, the role of infrastructure to Chinese consumer tech industry versus for the region outside of China, I think let's start from the e-commerce company. We all know e-commerce relies on two factors. One is logistic, the other is actually the payment. But if you look deeper, so logistic relies on highway. Second, rely on trucks and the drivers, right? So do you know when the highways in China were kind of built in, available, widely available? It's actually in 2000. It's 25 years ago. So the accumulated distance of Chinese highway is already only second to the US. That's 25 years ago. And all the delivery, all the express logistic companies such as SF Express, were founded also around that time. And later on, in 2003, Taobao started. And in 2005, JD.com launched. So the consequence of China's evolution is basically first you have highway built by government. Second, you have private sector built the logistic company. Then you have e-commerce company. But when I came to Singapore, when I came to realize the Southeast Asian ecosystem, I realized the consequences there actually are opposite.
Yes, most of the e-commerce players started first.
Yeah, for example, I noticed Grab and Gojek, they were founded in 2010 or 2012, right? But then you have J&T Express founded in 2015. And even now, present day, if you go to Indonesia, go to Philippines, maybe you don't find many highways there yet. So highways are still not available to many developing countries as of now. So the consequences actually are opposite.
Yeah, so actually to remember, if you look at timeline, it's actually quite interesting because Freeman mentioned that year 2000 when expressway became a network. 2001 was when China joined the WTO and all the manufacturing came. By that time, you already had the expressway network, at least in the coastal areas. You already had industrial parks being built.
Yeah.
So they could take in all this demand for manufacturing very, very quickly. So that's a challenge that when people talk about moving manufacturing to other places outside China, either you have like this one piece of infrastructure lacking, whether it's expressway, whether it's industrial park, whether it's labor or whatever. I remember 2000, right? 2000 was when I went to Singapore for high school. That was the first time I drove from Nanjing to my hometown using the expressway connecting Shanghai and Nanjing. It was a breeze, right? It was like you can go easily like 120 kilometers per hour. Whereas before that, for me to reach Shanghai from my hometown, when I was a kid, it's, 9 hours? By boat.
By boat?
By boat. By ship, yeah. So, no, it's not free shipping. Then the road improved a little bit, right? Then it's like 5 hours because you need to, because
the boat faster?
It's the other side of Yangtze, right? So you need to stop at the riverside, wait for the ferry, and take the ferry.
Yeah.
Then the bridge was built. Now it became like 3 hours. Then another bridge was built. Then it became 2 hours, and now the express high-speed railway. That's like an hour and a half.
Faster.
Even faster, yeah.
So actually the infrastructure, or at least the development of the infrastructure has been very important in kind of pushing the growth of e-commerce in China, right?
Yeah.
How about in terms of local services? How do you think the infrastructure in China has developed? Because obviously I would say when you look at food delivery in China as compared to food delivery outside of China, it's very different. So how do you think the infrastructure in China has allowed for that? Or do you think there are other reasons that kind of drive the penetration of food delivery in China?
If we talk about infrastructure for food delivery, I would say the labor force also could be regarded as infrastructure. China has a huge supply of so-called blue-collar labor force, which they can be the food delivery guy, they can be the waitress in the restaurant, or they can do all the construction work in big cities. But regarding the labor force, I noticed, for example, in Singapore, Singapore's ride-hailing services such as Grab. If you want to be a Grab driver in Singapore, you have to be a Singapore citizen or Singapore PR. Singapore, as a very small country, has a very strict regulation regarding foreign laborers working in Singapore. That's because Singapore is very small. But China is a huge country. China has kind of unlimited supply of the labor force. So I think that's a huge factor actually to a lot of labor-intensive industry, especially including food delivery.
So the whole country serves as a massive hinterland, right? So you have the labor moving to the cities, and people moving from countries to cities to help build, to help deliver food, to help with manufacturing, and then they earn money, and they save the money, and the money was used by banker as capital to invest. So this is how the whole economy sort of rolls, right?
So besides like the huge labor force, what do you think are some other reasons for the penetration of food delivery in China? Because I feel like from a foreigner's perspective, I think food delivery in China is really very different compared to food delivery anywhere else. One, it's a lot cheaper, obviously, but also because I come from Singapore, sometimes my food delivery is like $9, which is more than what I want to buy.
You mean the delivery fee, right?
Yeah, the delivery fee is $9, but maybe the bowl of noodles I want to buy is like $6, right? But also in terms of speed, I feel like here, food delivery is very fast. You don't have to wait so long, even though it's a big city. So what are some of the reasons that you think is why food delivery is so big in China?
I think that there has to come back to the very fierce battle between different companies which were backed by venture capitalists. It's actually around more than 10 years ago, in 2010 to 2015. So basically, investors invest huge money to this food delivery company, and they competed with each other, and they spend a lot on the consumer side as a subsidy. So that's also why from the consumer point, food delivery becomes a very cheap, very affordable things. And also, meanwhile, I think there's a trend that people or the urban professional level worker becomes more and more busy,
lazy.
So-called 内卷. So basically, office workers want to save time by order food delivery instead of going out. Basically, supply and demand, they complement each other. The battle is not just about food delivery, and actually that battle is really about 4 fronts battle. Food delivery is just one of them. The other 3 is called group buying and movie tickets and hotel booking. At that time, Meituan, as a startup company, Meituan was fighting on these 4 fronts.
So doing 4 things at the same time?
Yes, roughly during the 5 years from 2010 to 2015. Yeah, Meituan was founded in 2010, and in 2015, Meituan was merged with Dianping. So those 5 years. And one of the 4 fronts, group buying, Meituan was competing with Dianping. At that time. By the way, Dianping was founded way earlier. Dianping was founded in 2003. That's more than 20 years ago. So Dianping started as an user-generated content website for in-store dining. Dianping was often called Yelp in China, but actually Dianping was founded even earlier.
So it's kind of like people would dine in at a restaurant and then they would leave their reviews.
So Dianping was the first kind of consumer review website in China, and also it's founded earlier than. So it actually was the first that kind of website for the whole world. During the early days from January 2003, within that 6 year, Dianping already become profitable as a whole company in around 2009. And Dianping planned to do IPO even in 2009. By the way, Dianping was the first investment case for Sequoia Capital in China.
Oh, okay.
The first investment Sequoia did was to invest into Series A financing of Dianping, I think in 2005. Anyway, so Dianping's business is a search engine for in-store dining. And because of that, also Dianping essentially is a user information community, and it's make money by making advertising fee from merchants, like the ranking of the search result, so the merchants can pay for that.
For higher ranking.
Yeah, for higher ranking or for some specific keyword ranking. So it's a search engine, right? And it's a media, basically. It's an advertising business model media. And please note under the timeline, as I said, Dianping became profitable in 2009. It's the starting time of so-called mobile internet. The first generation of iPhone was released in 2007. The first Android phone was released in 2000.
You still remember that?
Yeah, I was like, oh.
At that time, actually, the biggest story in tech is not this. It's actually Groupon. Groupon was founded in Chicago in US, I think around 2008. And I think in 2012, Groupon went to IPO. It becomes the biggest IPO since Google went to IPO in 2004. So you can imagine at that time, around 2010, the entrepreneurs in China, they were like crazy about the idea of group buying.
Yes, Meituan also used to do group buy.
Yeah.
There was this thing in 2000 and I can't remember when, but essentially they call it the war of 1,000 group buys.
Yes.
So there were like hundreds of group buys companies in China because it's kind of an industry where I would say the barrier of entry is a little lower. So once Groupon came in, a bunch of companies like Meituan also started doing it. And I guess Dianping as well started doing group buy.
Yes, Dianping started, actually Dianping was almost the latest one into that wall. Let me explain. If you do group buying, if you want to open a new city, you only have to convince one merchant to list your group buying order on your website. Then you can claim, I can open this new city, right? But for Dianping as a user review website, if you want to open a new city, you have to accumulate enough user review. So it takes a lot of time for Dianping to open a new city. So actually, by 2009, Dianping was only available in 6 cities in China. Dianping's target users were like kind of middle to high level consumers in the topmost city, and also in the most city center area. Which is very different to group buying behavior. So that's why group buying company can spread out the whole China very quickly. But Dianping was kind of a slow company because it can only very slowly open a new city one by one. Anyway, Dianping also went into the group buying business in 2010, and the so-called Meituan-Dianping, 1,000 company, the war of 1,000 group buy, ended up eventually become the only two between Dianping and Meituan. So Dianping and Meituan were competing fiercely on the group buying front. For food delivery, the first food delivery tech company is Ele.me. Ele.me was founded in Shanghai in 2009. At that time, Meituan was not in that business at all. Meituan started as group buying, started to do food delivery after 4 years in 2013. So actually, Dianping invested into Ele.me in 2014. Dianping's strategy at that time, I don't do food delivery by myself. So I invested into the number one food delivery company then, which was Ele.me. And the Meituan's food was a far lag behind.
Yeah, I remember, but at that time there was also Baidu, which was doing
Baidu Waimai, but through Baidu acquired another company called Nuomi. Nuomi becomes Baidu Waimai at the time. Yeah. And also there were many other food delivery too, but Ele.me was the first one and Ele.me was the biggest one. So Ele.me becomes Dianping's investment portfolio at the time. And as I mentioned, there were also other 2 fronts war, which was movie tickets and hotel booking. Dianping was not directly involved into these two business because those are very capital intensive war. And Meituan get into movie ticket selling business also at that time. And that one becomes later on is what we know as Meituan-Dianping, movie tickets now. And also regarding hotel booking, Meituan was competing with both Ctrip and another company called Qunar. The difference is Ctrip and Qunar were mostly in the tier 1 or tier 2 cities. Meituan started from so-called lower cities.
So this is something interesting, right? Because now if you see companies like Pinduoduo, Temu, right? And these companies, Shopee, whatever, coming out, going to different regions.
Yeah.
And we look at the incumbent e-commerce platforms like Mercado Libre in Latin America, Allegro in Poland, and Bo in like Netherlands, etc. So all these companies are founded around 1999. And for a long time, their philosophy is that, okay, we want to serve the customers with a higher value, right? We want to increase the average order size, average basket, whatever. But then now if you look at the Chinese tech companies coming out, they take a different strategy, right? They go with the masses first. Look at Taobao, look at Pinduoduo, etc. They go with mass market, very low margin, but huge scale. With this scale, they try to segment the premium customers. But from what you told us just now, it seems that initially, like Dianping and many companies in Shanghai, they also started serving the more affluent customers.
Yeah.
But then now the philosophy becomes you start with the masses, then you move to premium, with a different methodology, right?
I would say two different segments. As I said, Meituan started from the mass, but by mass market is different with the region selection.
Yeah. Okay.
So, as I said, even Shanghai and Beijing are so large. If you only look at the affluent user base are mostly in the city center area. But the city center area is only like maybe 10% of the size of the whole city. So if you go to the suburban area of Shanghai, it's also regarded like, it's almost like a kind of a lower city population-wise or user. So it's quite, I would say it's quite mixed, quite different. You have tier 1, tier 2 cities, but you have city-centric area of these cities, and you have a suburban area of the cities. Then you have even lower cities. So I would say just Meituan adopted different strategy with other cities. Or I would say Meituan and Pinduoduo, both Meituan and Pinduoduo kind of started from their mass market. Yeah, so I think Meituan and Pinduoduo probably are both of them started from the so-called mass market user segment. And all the other internet companies in China kind of started not really more affluent or I would say urban residents in the top tier cities. Yes, and especially Dianping's user base has been and always been that one. So if you look at Dianping's user base, even now, after more than 20 years, it has only, I think Dianping's daily active user base right now is only about a little bit more than 10 million, I think, or 10 to 15 million. Only.
Meituan is like what? Monthly is about 250 million.
Almost, I think Meituan is about at least 300 or 400 million.
Yeah. Because
but now technically they're the same app, right?
No.
They are still separate apps.
Even Meituan itself is not the same. It's
Separate. That's actually also an important factor to Meituan and Dianping mega merge. Even they're merged, but the consumer-facing part remains two separate consumer brand. So actually that's different with all the other so-called mega merge. For example, Didi and Kuaidi merged together, and Kuaidi just disappears. Youku and Tudou merged together, and Tudou as a consumer brand just disappears.
So it's more of an acquisition.
Yeah, it's more like an acquisition
than a merger.
But Dianping and Meituan are different because their user base are still different, even today. Dianping focuses on, as I said, more affluent user in the city-centric area. The Meituan is more for the more mass market. Even currently, I remember that after the merger in 2015, I worked for Dianping. After the merger, we did internal data checking, and we found out that the overlapping user base between Meituan and Dianping are only 8%.
That's very small.
Very small.
interesting.
So the user base is actually quite different.
You can access Meituan from Dianping's app, right?
No, there are still two separate apps. But the merger has basically keep all the merchant data together. So basically on Meituan, you can read the reviews from not only Meituan, but also Dianping. If you order a food delivery on Meituan app, then you can read the user review from users on Meituan which ordered the food delivery. But you can also read user review for the in-store dining part from Dianping's user review.
Actually, I think maybe we can talk a little bit more about Dianping, because I think Dianping is something maybe the viewers outside of China are not as familiar with.
Yeah.
So obviously, my initial thought of Dianping is just that it's kind of like Yelp, like you said, it's a review platform, right? But I spent a lot of time with Elodie these few days, and I learned that you can do a lot of other different things on Dianping. So Dianping, obviously, it's not just reviews. There are a lot of local services that you can find on Dianping as well, right? And there are also like coupons that you can buy on Dianping. For example, if you're at a mall, you can search like near this mall what coupons are there, and then you can visit the store to eat if you see the coupon on Dianping.
Yes.
The people in China use Dianping very often when they're finding places to eat or
anything. Even if you want to get married and you want to take wedding photos, so you want to find a good wedding photo studio, then you try to search that on Dianping. Or which actually, on this part, I want to talk about a concept of the, in local services is kind of high frequency versus low frequency. That's from the consumer perspective. So basically means the frequency of the, how frequent you will use that local services. So you basically, you can regard the whole local service as very wide spectrum. So on the one side, for example, for food delivery, it's probably the most frequent, high frequency user behavior. You order food delivery maybe every day. Then you come to in-store dining. So you still eat, but you go to a specific in-store dining maybe a few other days. Anyway, so then you move the spectrum to other verticals, such as beauty salons. So you cut your hair, every month, maybe, right? Or maybe
I cut my hair once a year.
You just reminded me. I need to do it every 3 weeks.
Massage, So, you do massage maybe every few weeks or every few months. So then you come to the other end of the spectrum, which we call, for example, wedding.
Hopefully you only do it once.
Yeah. You know what? For wedding photo, even say, steadily speaking, so you divorced, then you come to with your new wife, you will not go to the same fashion.
That's true.
Right? So what does that mean for merchants? For a wedding photo studio, that means it has no retaining customer at all. It has to acquire new customer because there's no old customer, no retaining customer. So there's no such thing as CRM, customer relationship management for wedding photo, because that's just a one-time customer.
That's true. You cannot expect repeated clients.
So the similar logic actually apply to, for example, home decoration industry. That's why it's a very low frequency user behavior for consumer, but also for merchants. It means if you are a home decoration consulting company, you have to acquire your new customer. There's almost no retaining customer. There's a customer referral, right? You refer your friend, but there's no retaining customers. This is very interesting for the very high frequency user behavior sector, such as food delivery. But for the merchants, the margins are very low. But at the other end, for wedding, home decoration, even like education and training company, they are low frequency for consumer behavior. But for merchants, the margins are very high. So this means as an internet platform such as Dianping or Meituan, you have to adopt a different business model or different revenue stream for these different sectors. So for food delivery, you can do commission. You basically can take commission from each delivery order. Because it's low margin, but it's high frequency for consumers. But for wedding photo studio, you cannot take commission. Why? because the margin is so high and the price per order is also very high, right? So the merchant will not be willing to share commission with platform. The merchant would rather give a discount to consumer.
So the merchant will give the consumers a discount directly.
For example, a young couple come to a wedding photo studio through Dianping, then come to the install studio. The wedding photo studio will tell the young couple, don't say you come from Dianping, you search from Dianping. I will give you 10% discount. Because if I don't give you 10% discount, I have to give that 10% discount as a referral fee, as well advertising fee to the platform. I would rather give that discount to consumer instead of to pay the internet platform. So basically that means for those low frequency but high margin vertical, the internet platform is very hard to do commission, to do transaction commission model. You can almost only do advertising business model.
So you earn through advertising.
Yeah, because I think about that. I mean, if you want to decide on, let's say you are getting married, if you want to take the wedding photos, it's a huge package, right? You will not scroll on the platform and choose one and make the payment, right? You would actually go to meet the person and decide what, I mean, the person will show you the examples when it's good enough. So in this case, the platform helps you connect, but it's very rare for the transaction to be made without the two parties meeting each other. When the two parties meet each other, of course there's an incentive to say that, okay, I don't want to pay the platform a commission, you either transact directly with me.
Yes, so that's the two end of the spectrum, but there are a lot of verticals in between. So the platform has to adopt a kind of a mixed business model to different verticals. So it's kind of a mixed for transaction commission and advertising fee. But the mix is also how mixed, like how many percentages. So it's a different vertical by vertical. So that kind of mindset is a key mindset to understand the local services tech industry in China, and especially specifically to the Meituan-Dianping company.
How does that mindset get built, right? I mean, initially when people are trying, I mean, they probably didn't think about high frequency, low frequency.
Yeah.
How did people discover this framework?
I don't know, but if you look at the Meituan-Dianping merger, if you look at just food delivery versus in-store dining, it's actually also high frequency versus low frequency, right? So the food delivery part is more a high frequency part, or the high volume, or high traffic part. And the in-store dining part is more a lower frequency part. So the merger, so food delivery business was done by Meituan, and the in-store dining part was for the Dianping part. So basically, we can say the Meituan food delivery app bring a lot of traffic to Dianping's app too. So
Okay,
that's also kind of a high frequency and low frequency part.
Whereas Dianping brings in advertising money,
But as well as quality user
reviews and all.
User reviews brings the quality content back to the food delivery part. Yeah, the money is definitely, Dianping is very profitable, and financially, Dianping is very important to the Meituan as a group.
So as we can see when we talk to executives for internet from China, there are concepts, right? The traffic, the frequency, and the operations viewing, right? These are the three important concepts that you don't really hear from executives in other markets, right? But here it's like everyone talks about it, right? I mean, how do you acquire customers? I mean, but essentially, if you think about the CAC versus LTV, it's the same, right? How do you acquire customers at low cost, and how do you get the
lifetime value,
high lifetime value of the customers? Essentially, it's the same thing, right?
But I think back to the big picture of the whole development of China, or whole development of so-called middle class in China. I think all Chinese consumer tech industry, especially this local services segment, definitely benefit from that.
Do you think Meituan is a super app? So the reason why I'm asking this is because obviously I would say, as you have explained to me, super app is a pretty big term outside of China, right? And of course, when they talk about super apps, they look at China a lot, right? So obviously WeChat is one app that they look at. You can do almost everything on WeChat, very efficient. Would you think Meituan counts as a super app?
Okay, super app as a buzzword was invented by a tech community outside of China. and also was a popular concept there. But I guess I would have to say, I mean, inside the China tech industry, superapp was, as a concept that was talked very less. We don't talk about that. Honestly speaking, I think the only super app in China is WeChat.
What makes WeChat a super?
WeChat is started as an instant messenger, as a social network. Okay. More precisely, it started as an instant messenger. Then it added the so-called 朋友圈, the moments functionality, then become a social network. Then later on, it added an important feature called 小程序, mini apps, and it actually enabled a lot of company can build a mini app inside of WeChat instead of you doing your native iOS or Android app. That's a huge innovation for Chinese tech industry. And of course, right now you can use WeChat to do anything. That's why I say WeChat is a super app in China. But as you asked Meituan or even other popular app in China, for example, Alipay, or Douyin. I also heard some other people call them super app too. But in my personal opinion, they are not super app because they are still just very strong in some certain area. As I said, Meituan is just very strong in local service area. Douyin is just for video or short video. Although Douyin has a rising e-commerce business, but it's still not that comparable to other e-commerce giant. So in that sense, I don't call them super app. So for me, the only super app is WeChat.
But it's interesting because obviously overseas, a lot of people talk about like the concept of super apps, right? And then they look to China. But of course, I think some Chinese super apps have tried to go overseas as well, but they didn't manage to succeed.
But one thing interesting is that nobody here talks about the concept of super app, right?
Yeah.
And nobody in China talks about super app.
No.
Is it just because you're used to it? It doesn't feel very super to you. It's just, of course, this app must be able to do
Okay,
everything.
I guess because China is so huge, so every top 10 or even top 30 apps, if you look at the user base for any other country, already a mega huge app, right? But because of that, then nobody talks about super app because everyone is still talking about the specific business or specific user segment you want to target. It's not really about the sheer number of the daily active user, which are already very large for foreigners, but for Chinese, we have a bunch of apps that have already have like 100 million user base. Yeah.
So the lesson for corporate decision makers when your managers come to you and pitch to you about super app, ask very specific questions like what use cases you want to have, what's the frequency, how much traffic you have, what's the highest frequency, what's the lowest frequency, how do you intend to operate that, rather than I want to build a super app with that everything.
Just throwing a bunch of features into the app and then calling it a super app.
Yeah.
I think it has to have a clear logic, right?
And also every popular app in China, they started from a very specific or even very niche specific use case. As I said, WeChat started as an instant messenger. So you started from a very specific use case, then you expand, and then you build yourself as a platform, for example, as a mini app platform for others to build application on top of that. I don't think in the early days of WeChat, they say, okay, we want to build a super app inside of Tencent. I don't think they ever think of that.
So it was more of a natural progression. Like they started as instant messaging, and then as they grow and like compete with other players, they just think of what are the features we want to add into our app, and then from that, then they become the super app.
I think same for Alipay, right? I mean, for how Alibaba went to Alipay, went to all these products, I mean, now if you look back and say, it's an amazing strategy. But when you talk to people involved, they said, so we discovered, okay, once we build this business, we reached this bottleneck. In order to solve this, we built another.
But for these companies, let's say in China, they already have built so many products like WeChat, Alipay, they have all these mini programs, right? So when they go out of China, are these strategies that they can bring with them, or do they have to start from scratch again? Can you just bring the whole WeChat out of China and use it as a super app in other countries, or do you have to redo the product sequencing based on the countries that you enter?
Yeah, so early days WeChat tried to promote in different countries, and I spoke with the person in charge of that in India, and he said a very specific issue. He said people don't know how to add friends because with WhatsApp automatically your contacts become your contacts on WhatsApp. For WeChat you have to add friends. That's something specific with the China setting, right? I mean, you don't want to be spammed with random people, right? I mean, there's also scam as well.
Actually, WeChat did not start from scratch because before WeChat, Tencent already has a very popular app called QQ. QQ was the most popular instant messenger app in China.
So on QQ, do you add people by numbers, or they have like a QQ ID?
Yeah, you have a QQ ID which is number based. But in the early days of WeChat allow you or even encourage you to log in through your QQ credentials. Then they can automatically import your QQ friends, become your WeChat friends.
So in a way, is that, I mean, for instant messaging, how do you create the initial critical mass so people can actually use it? Because you need to have enough friends on it, right? So WhatsApp took an approach. They take everyone from your phone book as a friend.
And then they just add it into your WhatsApp.
Yeah, WeChat took a different approach. So for India specifically, people got adopted to WhatsApp very easily, and when WeChat came in saying we have that many features, but you need to you need to take a few steps to add friends, and sometimes this like small product designs in a fast competitive environment, which makes you sort of fall behind your competitors because they reach critical mass much faster than you do.
But in the early days of WeChat, I remember WeChat also allow you import your phone book for friends. Definitely, let's do.
And WhatsApp, you don't even need to do that. Once you install the app, automatically, you don't even need to import.
It's just automatic. Oh.
Yeah.
But I guess the good thing about WeChat is you don't have to use your phone number.
I think there are lots of things which are designed to protect your privacy. You need to approve a friend, and whatever you share, you can select who you can view, and only your friends and only certain parts of your friend base can view yourself. I mean, I think that addressed lots of people's concerns back then.
So what do you think about other Chinese internet tech companies going overseas? Obviously, WeChat is instant messaging. They tried to go overseas. They're not really that popular overseas, right?
No, I guess only popular in Chinese people overseas.
How about Meituan? So Meituan has also kind of started their overseas expansion, right? Yeah. And Hong Kong as well.
Yeah, because after all, Meituan is a food delivery business, so it has a lot of work with the local regulation, local labor force. As mentioned, do you have enough local labor force to do that? Or by the way, I think they also started to do drones, right? Drone delivery. Regarding Chinese tech company going overseas, we already have TikTok, Tmall, and Shein, right? Let's see next week how TikTok's
whether or not there will still be a bunch of TikTok refugees on Xiaohongshu. So I think that's all for today's episode. Thank you, Freeman, for joining us in Shanghai. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, do like our video as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay tuned for more videos. Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye.